What's up, everybody? Would you like to be happier? Are you feeling blue and just want to get past it? Are you tired of all these other happy people and your life stinks? Well, you're in luck because today's quick fix, we're going to be talking about how to be happy. This is the Existential
Woo!
Stoic Podcast, episode 144. I'm Randy. That's my buddy Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
Oh, I'm doing well. One of the beautiful things about getting older is I feel that as I'm getting older, aside from getting better looking, I'm also getting wiser. And with
Yeah,
that wisdom comes
yeah, you
happiness.
are.
You know? Have you found that as you're aging, you seem to be getting happier?
Well, I think this is what the philosophers were all talking about, with wisdom, that it's not something you can just get by just reading books and stuff when you're young or anything, because you need experience, you need that time as well. And when I was younger, I think like because I can think back to when I was like an undergrad. And when I was younger, I think I looked at it differently. I didn't understand it quite. But as you get older, I think it's part of it is just letting go of the little crap. You just realize you have a clearer sense of your own values, and so shit just doesn't matter as much. And I think it's a huge relief, right? And you see the world kind of for what it is, I think, in important ways that really help you deal with stuff because you just have that age, you have that experience, things, how things work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like what you said there. Let go of the little stuff and just kind of accept what it is. So in today's episode, we're each going to be sharing 3 quick tips for how to be happy. So at the end, you'll have 6 quick tips aside from that free one we just gave you about letting go of the little
Yeah.
stuff. So,
And it's that stuff, it's the thing that all people want, right? To be happy. Everybody seems to want it. It's all
I
I
mean,
hear
I think
about.
that's why we do everything because we want to be happy.
Pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully you'll get what you want by the end of this episode. You'll be happy. So my first one and this one's totally counterintuitive, is stop chasing happiness. So like so many people get stuck on this hedonic treadmill trying to chase down happiness, especially chasing down pleasures, different things like that, because they think that they equate that with happiness, or trying to get material things because they think that equates to happiness, or even just trying to be happy. Like when you feel terrible, it feels terrible, and most people want to be happy, so they're trying by might and may to be happy. But I would say that's probably not the answer. Once you let go of it, then you'll realize you probably already are happy.
Well, I think I like that's such an important one too, because I think it touches on a lot of really, just things that take so long to learn. Like the fact that I think like when you're chasing happiness, you're not giving yourself time to reflect, to actually think about what you want, to actually think about what would even make you happy, knowing that. It also is, I think a lot of people get caught up in this idea, especially in a consumer society, in this belief that a happy life is perpetual bliss. And that is not life. If you really think about it, that's such a contradiction, right? Life has got grief. A good life should have grief, should have loss. It's going to, right? And those can be happy things as well, or part of a happy life, rather, if they're dealt with in a healthy way. And I think this is part of like that growth too, is learning how to have that mental health, that character to actually, be happy, like in all those instances, and actually have, that good life that is a real life. I think that's a good one. I like that. That goes kind of nicely to my first one too, I think, which is don't make life harder than it needs to be. And I think, but I really do. I've been thinking about this dude
Guilty.
so much. I know, right? I do it, dude. I do it so fucking much. It's so annoying. But I've been thinking about this a lot recently because it's like, how many times, man, have like something happens and you let your imagination run, your fear, your anger, and you just make yourself freaking miserable for days, weeks, or you let your stress bury you, your depression bury you. It's like so much of it is our response to the world, and we make it so much harder. And it doesn't have to be. And it can even be how we handle other people. We don't bring things up. We don't address things when we need to. We don't actually say what's on our mind. We don't even talk about our feelings, things like that, that just make life harder, and it shouldn't be. We have control over our response. I think that's the important point.
Yeah, absolutely. No reason to make it harder than it already is because it's just about as hard as it needs to be at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't need to be any harder.
Yep. So my next one is get busy. And clearly I'm talking about sexually. Because that, I mean, releases endorphins and serotonin and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That'll be helpful. But actually get busy in terms of get really busy, like do a lot of stuff. I heard a saying the other day that most people are unhappy because they have too much time to consider if they're happy. And so it's like,
Yeah, that's true.
so it's like, yeah, like, I mean, and when people ask me like, really, how are you? Are you happy? I feel like socking them in the mouth and just being
Yeah.
like, I was totally fine until you asked, but now that I'm contemplating it, I'm not sure. So it's just like, if you don't have the time to think about being happy and being content and being perfect, then your life is great and you just get on with it. So getting busy, I think, is important because it's what we were meant to do. Like we were meant to do stuff. We're not supposed to sit around all day. Definitely not supposed to think all day. Yeah.
No, I like that one. I think there's so much truth to it too. Is like you have to be active in life. A life is an active life. You can't just sit around and do nothing, and that will start to wear on you. You know, and I think you're right. Like it's not bad. I think if you have the right life and an active life and you know good things in your life, having that downtime is healthy because you have time to reflect and stuff. But if that's all you have, it gets overbearing, right? Because you have too much time to just basically like imagine these horrible things. It goes really nicely with my second one too, which is pursue goals that give your life meaning and that create meaning in your life. And I think that's crucial with the get busy, right? Because it's getting busy working towards things that are going to make you feel achievement, right? Make you feel like you have success, make you feel like you're a good person, make you feel like you're a worthwhile person. I think so much of that is tied to our own self-conceptions, which is tied to the goals and the meaning we create in our lives.
Well, that's a really important one is to work on goals that are meaningful to you, because a lot of people get stuck in the working on goals that are put on them by society, by their parents, by different things like that.
Let's be fair. We all have. Everybody does. Literally, everyone has. And one day, hopefully, they figure it out.
And it's so unfulfilling when you do that because you just feel like
God,
you're
it sucks.
stuck, like you can't get out from it. But figuring out what goals are actually worthwhile to you and then doing them. And like I would say a handy hint for people is like look at something that you really want to do, but you have that voice in your head that says you can't do it for one reason or
Yeah,
another. Like
yeah.
let's say you want to be a billionaire, but you have that voice, it's like, oh no, they're a different type of person. Well, go for it. You know, what have you got to lose? Or or like let's say you really want
What
to
if you just?
be an yeah
Oh, go ahead. Oh no, I was gonna
yeah
say like,
let's say
what if
you
you
really want to be
wanted?
an artist
Yeah,
and you just think like, oh, I'll never be a Basquiat or whoever else, but it's just like, go for it. What have you got to lose? You might. I have a feeling that when you have those like hidden desires of your heart that you really want but you don't believe you can, I think those are the things you're really supposed to go for, because you're going to develop yourself in the process and become such a better person, and it's going to be so much more fulfilling than you could ever imagine because you're working on something that you really want. And if you get to the point you want to be, great. If you don't get there, still great, because the whole time you're doing what you really want to do inside your heart.
you also don't have that regret of not doing it. No, I think that's such
Mm.
a good one, man. It's so important, that idea that like you're going after what's really like you're listening to yourself effectively, right? Which so many of us
Mm.
don't do because we distract ourselves all the time.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So my third one for how to be happy is work on gratitude and practice the small
Yeah.
delights. So
Yeah.
Danny and I have talked about this since the beginning of the podcast a year and a half ago. Thank you all for all of you guys who listened for that whole long time already. But basically, the small delights is every night before going to bed, just write down 3 things you're grateful for that happened today. And it seems so little, and most people will never do it because it seems so little. And it's crazy. It blows my mind what people give up because they think that things don't matter. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, how many times do we say, and this is a little tangent here, but how many times do we say that just writing down your goals makes it much more likely to happen? And they have scientific studies that prove that.
40%, I think
Well,
it is. Yeah.
yeah. So I have a friend who like has a goal that she's been wanting for a while, and I'm like, listen, just write it down. And she's like, yeah, I'll think about it. I'm like, no, like, how much effort does it actually take to lift up a pencil and write it down? And she's like, yeah, I'll think about it, maybe. But it's just like same thing with the small delights. Just 3 things you're grateful for at the end of the day. It seems so little, but it makes such a huge impact. And Danny and I are both proof that within a week, it
Yeah.
was literally life changing.
It was. It helps so, dude. It helps so much, and it's like because it makes you. The more you do it, and I can't stress this enough, the more you become aware of delightful things every day and things that you're grateful for. Little things. They don't have to be big things. Tiny little things. A good cup of coffee, a good chat with a friend, whatever. a pretty flower, a great sunset. There's so many things. And the more you do it, the more you find that writing down 3 is hard because there's so many. And I think once you get to that point, life's pretty good. Because even the bad days, you realize that there's way more to be grateful for than there is to be miserable about. And I think that is the important thing. You shift the balance in your psychological and your mental attitude, you know, and I think that's crucial.
Yeah. And gratitude, I mean, gratitude is a trained behavior. It's one of the foundations of being happy, but it's a trained behavior. Everybody doesn't have it to begin with. I mean, nobody has it to begin with. You need to learn it. And so you learn it by actually doing it. So yeah, that's
by the way, and this is just a side note. If your friend's listening, I use the Color Note app on my phone, and I write down things so often, ideas, goals, things I need to do all day. And it's the best because you know what? When I write them down, I get reminded by them. I can even set a reminder and they get done. And it's amazing.
Dude, I mean, it's crazy because it gets to the point where it gets to the point where you realize as soon as you write something down, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's like a crazy intentional part of living where like once you write it down, it's already done. Now you're just waiting for the rest of the world to see.
I used to set reminders. So like, and I do still for certain things, like, you know, do this day, sometimes appointments or whatever. But like I used to do that with goals. I don't even bother anymore because half the time I look back at my phone and I look at this, I have like a list. There's probably like 50 fucking, you know, things on there, Color Note things. And most of them are already done because I've already just been doing them. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of it. Like, but I wrote them down and I can still see it. And then when I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, I did that. That's awesome. I am doing the things that and like, it helps me remember too sometimes that I am living the life that I want. I am living that intentional, you know, life. I am exercising my agency. I'm creating me, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I should do my last one though, because we're the long, quick fix. All right.
On today's slow fix.
Yeah, right. Well, it's happiness. Come on, everybody wants it. It's hard. So my last one, I think this is really important. Keep learning new things, but with that, keep your eyes and your mind open. And if you want a challenge, I think this is, you know, something to try, you know, just try. If you run into somebody you think has an idiotic position, that you think, oh my God, how could somebody believe that? What are they, stupid? Talk to them for 10 minutes, but don't talk at them. Listen to them. Find out why they believe it. See if you can be so open-minded that you can at least sort of understand their position, not agree with it, but you can at least understand the reasons that they have. Try that. It's a good method for like open-mindedness and for being a good listener and for just being more open to the world in general and to others around us. Because I think most of the time, you know, whether it's other people, other things, we find that things are accessible. We can learn things. The world is such that we're capable of understanding it. So you got to keep your eyes and your mind open.
That is a great one to end on. So that is it for today's episode of How to Be Happy. I think you have 6 quick fixes right there. Now you have all the reasons you ever need and all the methods you ever need to be happy. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. Make sure to check us out on all the podcasting services. Also on YouTube, you can check out our 2 pretty mugs. And we will catch you guys later in the week. That was a lot of fun. Great talking to you. I'll catch you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.